We laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good evening and welcome to Headliners. My name is Simon Evans. Very shortly, myself and my two comedy guests will be going through tomorrow's newspapers. But first, it's time for the news headlines.
Good evening, I'm Tamsin Roberts in the GB newsroom. The President of Ukraine says he needs to meet with President Vladimir Putin to determine Russia's position on ending the war. He also says it would not be possible to take a decision at such a meeting on what should be done with occupied territories. That would need to be put to a referendum. Meanwhile, new footage has emerged which appears to show Russian troops using stun grenades and gunfire to disperse a rally in Kherson. President Zelensky says civilians living in Ukraine face a constant struggle.
We hear it for hours, days, weeks. Our people hear it all the time, and immediately they take children, help the elderly, go to shelters, to basements, to save themselves, to survive from Russian missiles and bombs. With the sound of this siren, Ukrainians live, work, try to sleep, get treatment for wounds, give birth to children, die.
Meanwhile, Boris Johnson has stressed his horror at President Putin's use of increasingly brutal tactics, which include siege warfare and targeting civilians. During a meeting today, the leaders of the US, France, Germany and Italy agreed to increase pressure on Russia by maintaining wide-ranging sanctions. The Prime Minister also said their collective action has been effective in undermining Putin's war machine. MPs have backed a Labour motion condemning P&O Ferries' decision to sack 800 staff without notice and demanding their immediate reinstatement. The vote follows protests in London against the sudden sackings. The non-binding motion passed by 211 votes to 0. It called on the government to suspend the contracts and licences of DP World, the owner of P&O Ferries, and urgently bring forward legislation to outlaw fire and rehire. The local MP for Nazanin ZaghariRatcliffe has called for an inquiry into why she was detained in Iran for nearly 6 years. It comes as the British Iranian spoke publicly for the first time, criticising the government for the time it took to secure her freedom. MP for Hampstead and Kilburn, Tulip Siddiq, is calling on the Foreign Affairs Select Committee to investigate. Nazanin landed back in Britain last Thursday after the UK finally agreed to settle a £400 million debt dating back to the 1970s. A teenage girl has died after her e-scooter collided with a van this afternoon. The Metropolitan Police say officers were called to reports of a crash in Newham in East London. The girl, who police believe was 14, was treated by the London Ambulance Service but died of her injuries. The Met is investigating and has appealed for witnesses. The Prime Minister has not yet been interviewed by police as detectives begin speaking to witnesses over lockdown-busting parties in Downing Street and Whitehall. Officers looking into the gatherings are now speaking to people. It's after over 100 people filled out a written questionnaire under caution, including Boris Johnson. As yet, no referrals have been made for the issuing of fixed penalty notices. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I am your host, Simon Evans, and joining me tonight to go through Tuesday's papers, we have Leo Kearse and Diane Spencer. Good evening, lady and gentlemen. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Excellent. Nice to see you again, Leo. But Diane, I've not seen you at all before.
No,
I think
this is
we've
the
managed
first
to.
time.
Yes, we've not intersected before, so this is great. You two have worked together before,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you've had your stool adjusted in order to elevate yourself to Kearsian heights. You look a very well-balanced pair. You almost look like you're on the same show, which doesn't always happen, you know, without guests. So let's see what we've got on the front pages for tomorrow. The Daily Mail runs with Twisted MP Killer plotted attacks for years. He staked out Gove and researched Raab, Wallace and Starmer, court told. We will be looking at that rather disturbing emerging details concerning that horrific murder which took place last year. The Telegraph leads with Putin's super yacht faces seizure, and Minister's last gasp plea to Sunak to ditch unconservative national insurance rise. The Independent has Russia obliterates Kiev shopping centre, and Nazanin says, I should have been back 6 years ago. So far, no great consensus emerges with the lead story. The Guardian leads with revealed $17 billion of global assets linked to Russians with alleged ties to Putin. And the Financial Times leads with Powell signals more aggressive tightening of US monetary policy. I think that's the first story so far, which we will not be looking at in any further detail. Mall attack, also Russia strikes Kiev suburbs. The Times has Putin threatens civilians to break Mariupol's spirit, and Number 10 eyes toll roads to collect tax lost to e-cars. They've only just started giving tax breaks to e-cars, and now they're going to find another way of squeezing the juice out of us. The Daily Express runs with it's time to raise state pensions, Mr. Sunak, and Sir David Amess, murder suspect, plotted attack on Michael Gove. The Sun also has kill Gove plot, and jihadist targeted minister. Kate the Jungle VIP brings a little bit more pictorial splendour to their front page, while the Daily Star has Cammy quits live TV. Who is Cammy? Well, I don't know that we'll have time to find out. Unbelievable Jeff. Is that a pun? I can't quite understand. Unbelievable. Well, anyway, that's in reference to Chris Kamara leaving Sky Sports. Perhaps that's his catchphrase, is it? Unbelievable. People in sports do say that a great deal. It rarely seems applicable in my view. Those are the headlines. We will be going into those stories in a little more detail right away. So, the city of Mariupol seems to be on the brink. This is further horror, of course, from the relentlessly bad news from Ukraine, and this is on the front page of the Times, Leo.
Yeah, so Russia's really bogged down and surrounding Mariupol, and attempts to take the city seem to have failed. So they've resorted to just firing endless, huge amounts of artillery, and there's also been aerial bombardment as well. They're just, it seems to be fairly indiscriminate. There's a lot of footage of just homes and blocks of flats being shelled. The people in Mariupol are trying to leave, and they're in terrible conditions. When it's freezing cold at night, they're having to cook on bonfires and communal spaces, melt snow for water, food's running out. And Russia's opened civilian corridors for them to escape. Occasionally, on and off open corridors, but a lot of the corridors lead to Russia, which obviously, if you're being shelled by Russia, you don't want to go to Russia. And they're also
Russia is
concerns.
probably not being shelled at the moment. That may be an advantage.
I mean, that is an advantage, but there are concerns that Ukrainians who go to Russia are then going to be used as slave labour and sent to gulags in the east.
I wonder whether they seem to have adopted the tactics which they used in their proxy war in Syria, essentially, don't they? There's no attempt actually to take control of the cities. They simply reduce them to rubble. I don't know, but people say they've been bogged down. They haven't made progress. I'm not sure they've genuinely tried.
Well, it's sort of estimated that 90% of the buildings have been destroyed, such as the severity of the shelling and the worrying news that Russia's actually used hypersonic missiles, which is the brand new type of missile which is very good at evading radar and other anti-missile devices.
Yeah.
But what is...
Would we be able to tell if they'd used those? I suppose, I mean, they are very fast, obviously, but I mean, all missiles are at least sort of supersonic, aren't they? Hypersonic ones are like 5 times the speed of sound or something, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're normally used, I think, not necessarily intercontinental, but slightly longer range than these. I don't know, but is there an advantage with attacking a shopping mall with something like that?
I mean, there's no... I mean, the only advantage of using a hypersonic missile is that it can evade regular anti-missile devices because of its ability to bump against sort of the aerodynamics. But what's really worrying is this kind of narrative coming out of Russia. I mean, the whole narrative is worrying, of course, but they're now sort of saying that you will be subjected to a court-martial. And they're saying this to the people of Mariupol. They're saying, you will be subjected to a court-martial for what you are doing. What? You're invading our country and you're telling me you're going to drag civilians and citizens and anybody who defends themselves.
Court-martial?
This is literally what the Russian...
Can you read that line out?
Yeah. So, sorry, give me a moment. I'm not wearing my glasses. Here we go. On Sunday night, Russia issued an ultimatum to those in Mariupol to surrender, adding, the court-martial that awaits you is only a little of what you already earned because of your despicable attitude toward your own citizens, as well as the horrible crimes and provocations you have committed.
I mean, that could have been directed at the Azov battalion, who are apparently, hunkered down in Mariupol and are going to, fight to the death. So they're a really nationalistic group of Ukrainian fighters.
Still, court-martial is an interesting thing to threaten your enemies with, isn't it?
Yeah.
David Amess, killer, was apparently going to kill more MPs. He had a little list. This is from the front page of the Daily Mail, Diane.
Yes. So Ali Harbi Ali, who was the man who wanted to become a martyr and stabbed Sir David Amess to death in October last year.
One of those two he managed to achieve.
Yes, they have discovered subsequently in the trial that's happening now that he has been plotting assassinating many MPs, and he has actually been he was looking at Keir Starmer, he was looking at Michael Gove, specifically Michael Gove. He was going to go for him, but then
while
weirdly...
he was jogging, is that right?
Yes, while he was jogging, he was going to kill him, but he decided not to do this after the cabinet minister split from his wife and his home was sold. But what's bizarre is that this man wanted to achieve martyr status by attacking any MP that voted for the Iraqi war and voted for bombing in Syria. But then when he found his target and his target suffered a personal loss, he changed his mind.
So you're saying he's not an entirely coherent, rational actor, in fact?
Well, yeah, and in fact, David Amess changed his mind on the Iraq war. He, supported it at the start when it seemed like a good idea, and then changed his mind when it was
there were a number of
different
votes on Syria as well, weren't there? I think there was more than one. I don't know which one it is that he was, because there was one point at which they didn't win the vote to bomb Syria, so presumably it's not that vote. Because that was the one, you know what I mean? When they after the gas attacks and they didn't get the consensus, and that
partly because we dragged our feet on Syria because of the disaster that Iraq had become.
Yeah.
So
anyway, Syria was more. Any sort of justification.
I mean, either way, it's obviously whoever voted for what in Parliament, they don't deserve to be stabbed to death by an Islamic extremist.
And presumably, this is being brought up by the prosecution to demonstrate that he should be regarded as a terrorist rather than a mentally ill loner or something of that
yes.
sort. Is it? Yeah.
I think it's part of their prosecution to say, look, we have photos of him, we have evidence that he was outside the Houses of Parliament. He's photographing the Houses of Parliament. He is not a tourist. No. He is meticulously planning an attack on our democracy.
You could combine the two. I mean, you can get an ice cream and you can plot terrorism.
Weird details came out of it, though, when I was reading it. He said there was a notification went off on his phone. He had his phone on the table between him and Amos, and there was a little ping or whatever, and at that point he said, sorry, took out a knife he'd...
Was it a calendar notification? Don't forget to stab MP.
I almost wonder whether he had created his own little brainwashing, do you know what I mean? Like Manchurian Candidate
I was
moment.
thinking of that
like
film, yes.
Yeah,
and as soon as he saw the ping.
Yeah, he was like, ping, right, that's it, now I do it. I don't know, because he would need some sort of, at some point, otherwise you would just find yourself going, well, anyway, it's been very nice meeting you, and you would find yourself back out in the lobby. And
as happens in so many social situations in England. You know, you sort of go in with a certain intent to complain about something, and then because of social niceties, you end up not doing it.
I mean, we mustn't be flippant about it. David Amos was an absolutely, exemplary local MP. It's absolutely horrific that somebody should be exposed to that kind of... I mean, it's just, there's something so touching and sweet about the vulnerability of public servants that you can get access to. I think we take it for granted very much in this country.
Well, and perhaps, eventually at some point we're going to, the political establishment will wake up to the danger of religious extremism in this country.
I would hope so. Boris Johnson has announced the UK is to increase its nuclear power capabilities. I personally feel very enthusiastic about this. Lydia?
Well, have you got a uranium mine?
We're near the sea, and they've already ruined the horizon with wind power, which I think is a very short-termist solution, frankly. I would much rather there was a large nuclear power reactor halfway on the way to France.
So when you go down to the beach, you can't enjoy it.
No.
It's like rubbing sand in your eyes, but
we
you
used
can
to
see
have
a windmill.
lovely sunset
not in
over
my
on
backyard.
the horizon. It is my backyard, and we used to have a gorgeous sunset there, and now there's this kind of row of red glowing lights, like we're being attacked by orcs.
Some of us don't care about your view and want to be able to cook some eggs.
What would you rather have, though? Would you rather have nuclear or would you rather have coal?
I think I'd like to have a good balance of all of it. So at the moment, nuclear power, like Britain used to have, a decent amount of nuclear power. It's fallen to now about 16% of our power is generated by nuclear power. Boris wants to get it back up to 25%. The only problem with nuclear power is it takes a long time to come online. You can't just, chuck up a nuclear
we
reactor tomorrow.
We should have been committing to it 30, 40
10 years ago, 20 years ago. I mean, there are some companies like Rolls-Royce, who are one of the companies that Johnson is in discussion with. They build these small reactors that are very safe and also very quick to, comparatively quick to build. 60 megawatts per hour, the only sound you can hear is the clock ticking. Yeah, and it's incredibly safe. Nuclear power, because of Chernobyl, because of Long Mile Island, people assume that nuclear power is dangerous and it's radioactive, but it's actually incredibly safe.
It's the least dangerous thing you can do in the entire planet. It's less dangerous than drinking water backwards to cure hiccups.
Well, that sounds quite dangerous, to be honest. That sounds a lot of people die. So, but the amount of radiation you actually absorb, the average person absorbs from nuclear power every year is equivalent to eating one banana a year.
I know. You only have to visit Cornwall and you get more background radiation just from the natural amount of stuff.
Again, a dangerous thing to do.
Something. What is your view on nuclear power?
I think it's fabulous. I went for a trip around Hinkley Point B when I was younger, and I really, really enjoyed it. No, I think it's fabulous because the waste product that you get from nuclear power is actually very small and it's containable, and you take that waste product and you bury it and you let it sort of dissipate by itself and become less radioactive. And obviously, if we invest in it and the technology gets better, we're hoping to move from uranium to thorium, which is even better because that takes less time to decay. But if you think about it, the problem with sort of the coal is that the waste product of that gets literally put into our atmosphere. And so many people die from the pollutants in our atmosphere that the coal pumps in.
It is extraordinary how many people have proven deaths, not danger of deaths, but proven deaths that are related directly to the coal industry, which it never gets discussed. People discuss generally the idea of smog and the idea of global warming in the future, but meanwhile, people literally dying of pollutants.
And you've got the miners in Chinese mines, thousands dying. And also, the radiation, you absorb more radiation from coal power, ironically, because there are radioactive isotopes, obviously at a very dilute level, but in the coal, so that gets burnt, goes up into the air, and you inhale more than one banana's worth of radiation.
The bald eagles being killed by the turbines. I mean, the huge numbers of precious birds.
This sounds like a street battle. 70s gangs.
The bald eagles and the turbines. When you're an eagle all the way. We've reached the end of part one, ladies and gentlemen. Join us after the break. We'll be discussing the pros and cons of the British Empire. I'm sure that'll take up a couple of minutes at the very least. The less than reputable character of Viktor Orban and loan sharks, who I suppose could be another rival gang. We'll see you in part two. Thank you very much.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Simon Evans. To my left, if not politically, they're just sat there, Leo Kearse and Diane Spencer, I think to my left in all important regards, to be honest. Sabita Tanwani's family have made a statement on her brutal killing, and this is from the Telegraph, Diane, rather upsetting details again.
Yes, so the family of Sabita have paid tribute to her. She is beautiful and irreplaceable, and she's a 19-year-old who was found dead in her student accommodation in Clerkenwell. And what is deeply sad about, it's already deeply sad, her death. She was found with very severe neck injuries. And what this is, it feels like another young woman being killed.
Is it strangulation, you mean?
The implication is strangulation. They've not said that outright. But there's a website called We Do Not Consent to This, and it's about violence being committed towards young women, all women, and they actually did a whole feature about strangulation and how 10% of the population have actually been attacked with strangulation. And even though the signs might not be visible straight away, afterwards people who have suffered this can get all sorts of horrible complications, such as stroke, even brain hemorrhage, miscarriage, and sort of even just pressing on the artery for 4 seconds can knock somebody out.
Is there any implication that this was an accidental killing then? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, what I'm suggesting is that the man who has been arrested, Maher Maroof, he may sort of put this forward as a defence, the rough sex defence.
Right.
And it's just upsetting because, you know, we've had such a catalogue of women. We've had Biba Henry, Nicole Smallman, Emily Jones, Sarah Everard, Sabina Nessa, and now Sabita Thanwani. And these are just the ones we hear about. And it's all been sort of just attacks on young women. And it's just a bit overwhelming, you know?
Nazanin ZaghariRatcliffe had some rather pointed words for the government at her first press conference, saying back in the UK, a little bit of a marital dispute, in fact.
Yeah, so this is reported in the Daily Mail and the Independent. So Nazanin ZaghariRatcliffe, which is Iranian for ungrateful,
She certainly split the room, hasn't she?
Yeah, she has. She has. And, you know, so she had this press conference, had a right old go at the British government for spending, like, what was it, £400 million to get her back?
She's supposed to be a charity worker.
Yeah,
could you not think how much we could have done with that 400 million? Imagine how many sponsored walks that would have covered.
I'd rather buy some Stinger missiles for Ukraine than... I mean, I think we can see why Iran...
In a way, I can understand why she doesn't feel grateful, because she probably recognises that it wasn't done as an act of generosity towards her, was it? It was part of a reshaped political landscape in which it became necessary immediately to get on better terms with the Iranian people so that we could start buying their oil.
I think it would have been better if she'd directed some of the ire towards the people who kidnapped her.
Yeah,
for 6 years. I mean, it wasn't Britain that kidnapped her. It was Iran.
She continues to have dual citizenship.
Oh, really?
In Iran. Yeah. Part of the reason that it was difficult to get her out was because, you know, Her Britannic Majesty demands that she be allowed to pass without let and hindrance, but on the other hand, she's in her own country. In some respect, they have the right to hold her because she's an Iranian.
So probably doesn't have any plans to go back there and train more journalists.
I don't know though. She, you know, because obviously Brexit has happened since she was in jail over there. I mean, maybe they haven't broken that to her.
I don't
know if she knows about that.
I don't think Iran's in the EU, so it should.
You have a little more sympathy with Nazanin.
I'm ever so sorry. I had something very clear that I was going to say and it disappeared out of my mind. She is clearly very annoyed, but it kind of sounds like a joke. How many foreign secretaries does it take to get out of Iran?
Yes.
It was like, go on, open up.
It's not funny. It's 5, she says. But that does reflect a fairly swift turnover in foreign secretaries as much as anything else, doesn't it? I mean, there was a time when William Hague was foreign secretary for about 6 years, I think. So it could have been just one. And I suppose, I don't know whether he would have popped back on an annual basis to go, honestly, I'm working on it. Seriously, it's right at the top of my pile now. But I can imagine every time someone came and, oh, Boris Johnson, I remember you. You used to host Have I Got News for You?
Yeah. I remember what I was going to say. We don't know what has been whispered in her ear over the past 6 years. How do we know that she may have been sat there alone, or she may have had somebody coming in every day going...
you've been watching Homeland, haven't you? Is that what
She's been radicalised.
Yeah.
Yes!
A Manchurian candidate.
He made CCTV in the garage as she rolls out the prayer mat. Uh-oh. More than 1 million people are in debt to loan sharks, with some demanding sexual favours as repayment, according to the Daily Telegraph. Diane, I don't know if this is a recruitment ad for loan sharks, or is it...
Well, I mean, so a report has found that more than 1 million people in debt to loan sharks, which is incredible for a start, but some of these loan sharks are demanding sexual favours as repayment.
That's traditional, though, isn't it? I mean, that's probably on the way out rather than the way in, I would have thought. It's a bit like the casting couch.
I'm glad you just gave me that 300 quid, to be honest.
So, I mean, you've got to remember that this is all sort of illegal loaning. So none of this is operating within the Centre for Social...
I assume by the word shark, that's what that means, is it? Rather than payday loan companies which have extortionate rates of interest. But are you allowed to call them sharks if it's illegal?
No, they're regulated.
Yeah,
so this is unregulated.
They're more barracudas.
Just the fella who comes around with a little book.
Yeah, and pulls your wedding ring off your finger.
Yeah.
Well, this is the alarming thing. They're saying that they're calling them community loan sharks, and they're exploiting school networks to target victims by identifying, and I quote, which of their children's friends were hungry or didn't have the best shoes.
Wow.
That is depressing. So they're literally sort of loitering outside school gates, and if they see a child that they think they've got scruffy shoes, which child doesn't have scruffy shoes?
Yeah,
like
my child has scruffy shoes, certainly. I feel like we're in some sort of call and response song.
Do you want to borrow 20 quid?
Shorts, yeah.
Do you want to borrow 20 quid? Get some new ones.
That's
Sports Direct.
That's what they're doing. And they're sort of giving them cards going, oh, there you go. Tell Daddy.
It was never difficult, was it, in school? I remember, you could usually tell who was kind of struggling a little bit at home. It wasn't necessarily scruffy shoes, but there were usually some kind of... There was always a sort of sense around the kids where they had actually like too much white bread. That was always a bad sign. I remember that. Yeah. Use that as a telltale.
Scotland was slightly, I mean, white bread wasn't, oh my God, it's not granary. You pov.
I'm trying to remember what it was. There was obviously the home haircut. That was obviously a good sign. But I had the home haircut. I mean, we were probably borderline on that. But I don't know.
Well,
we were like poor but honest. But I mean, it could have flipped.
I remember watching a video. We were showing a video in geography, and it was set in a refugee camp in Ethiopia. And there's a kid in the refugee camp wearing this Action Man T-shirt. It was exactly the same as my mates.
Yeah.
But my mates was in worse condition. So we got rinsed for it.
I had a certain kind of nostalgic twinge. There was a sort of man at C&A look that used to crop up in Afghanistan and stuff if you ever went, on the hippie trail out there. And they were all quite happy in nice kind of car coats, that kind of, those kind of like rally jackets, that kind of gift. Anyway.
Yeah, but this is going to be a bigger problem as we go forward through the inflation, the cost of living crisis. This is really going to spiral.
No,
more
it is.
People
are going to be experiencing serious pain, and these things can like, it can suddenly flip, and before you know it, you're into hyperinflation and all the rest of it.
And they have to be very careful because 55% of people who entered into these loans thought that the shark was their friend.
Okay. Right.
So you do have to be careful. If you're having trouble, then, and somebody goes, oh, I can help you out, and just a little bit of interest and the rest of it. But also, they're saying about these people have had to sort of sign things to guarantee sexual favours, for example.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's all... Like, how is it worth the paper it's written on? Do you know what I mean? How is it?
If I was given the alternative of sexual favours to the amount I owe the Inland Revenue after 18 months out of work, I would absolutely jump at it. The British Empire, a point of contention for some, but the positive aspects should be taught in schools, according to the Equalities Minister Kemi Badenoch. This is from the Times, Leo.
Yeah, so Kemi Badenoch, who's a breath of fresh air, to be honest. For somebody who, when you hear the term Equalities Minister, you think you're going to get nagged, about your intrinsic whiteness or something. but actually, she's spoken out against.
She grew up in Nigeria, right?
She grew up in Nigeria, and she says that that she experienced some of the positives. She was talking about some of the positives of the British Empire as well as the negatives. All we ever hear about.
To be fair,
the negatives.
I'm a little hazy on this, but Nigeria was French, right? Was it not Nigeria? I don't think it was English.
No idea.
I don't think it was British Empire, but no, it doesn't matter. I mean, Africa. Obviously, the scramble for Africa, it was a big mess.
Yeah,
but I think that part of Africa was broadly French. Anyway, I may be wrong.
I mean, I've no idea to be honest.
Should have checked.
But yeah, we hear this sort of narrative of the British Empire just being this deadening, horrible, oppressive regime.
Which that's obviously not my narrative. I'm still very much Michael Caine in the red jacket. That's
but I mean, obviously, the British Empire did some terrible things, but it was the old days. Everybody did bad things. But this narrative is damaging, to victims. It has this sort of patronising victim message that removes any sort of agency and responsibility from the people that it's saying are victims of it. But it also fosters resentment and
it's hard to move forward, isn't it? She actually, I don't know if you've got it there, but she had a very apposite phrase for it. She said something like, rather than thinking like dwelling on the past and how that's made you a victim, we're all members of an ongoing moment that's constantly evolving, and that is an empowering thought. What do you think?
I think it's a good thing because she chose to say that British history belongs to all of us, and everybody had a part to play. And it's like there were some good things, so let's get a balanced view. So we could say, okay, so on the one hand, some roads were built, isn't that great? And like medical supplies and technology.
Banks, railways, institutions, reliable government, hard money. There were quite a few innovations to prepare
Just
were
a
left
couple.
behind.
If anybody's...
Much as we're still quite grateful to the Romans for the roads and the aqueducts.
Yeah, I want some reparations. I want some reparations from the Romans, to be honest. But if anybody's upset about slavery, there's more slavery happening in the world now than there was at the height of the transatlantic slave trade.
Absolutely correct. Well, I mean, I think we can move very smoothly on to this next story, in which Jamaican campaigners are on the other side of that coin, and they're calling for the royal family to apologise for colonialism, presumably as a preparatory gesture towards actually paying down some of those reparations. This is from The Guardian, Diane.
Yes, well, OK, so we have sent our best royals. They are the most media-friendly, most Instagrammable royals over
in a fairly thin field, it has to be said these days, but still.
So we've sent them over for a Caribbean tour, and Jamaican campaigners have called for a colonialism apology from the royal family. And there is a group which calls itself the Advocates Network, and they are going to protest this on Tuesday. And they're not impressed at all. They're essentially accusing us of royal washing by sort of sending over, oh, look, it's Kate and Wills. Everybody loves them. No one will dare to... Oh, no. They're annoyed.
And they say the royal family and the Queen and the throne she sits on is all funded by ill-gotten gains from centuries past, right?
Yes, and so they are very annoyed also because...
Do we have any idea how many of them there are? Is this going to be like half a dozen people, you know, is it going to be like Janie Godley welcoming Donald Trump at Glasgow Airport? Or is it going to be a more substantial than that?
Well, they've got some names, so there's at least 3 of them.
Yeah.
So
I saw one of them, Kay something. Kay
Osborne?
Yeah, I looked her up on Wikipedia. I don't know if it's the same one, but there was a Kay Osborne who used to present a show on Jamaican breakfast television until about 5
is it the
years
same
ago.
person?
I think it must be.
Right.
Because she's quite media-friendly, and I think she's moved in... I think she's going down the Joanna Lumley route of having moved into human rights and...
Right. Well, it can be a lucrative...
concerns, yeah.
It can be if you want to buy villas, and look at the Black Lives Matter
when you get used to being
people.
loved by your people, you know, it's hard, you know, it's hard to move on. Look at Eamon Holmes.
Yeah.
It's... no, seriously. I think she is probably a media TV personality, but... I mean, I don't know. Does it harm them? I don't know that it does. When Diana and Charles went to Australia, the Australian Republican movement thought that was their moment, didn't they, to protest against them? And in fact, she won them over so thoroughly that was the nail in the coffin for republicanism for the next generation.
Right.
According to that episode of The Crown, anyway. Which I absolutely gospel on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, folks, that's it for part 2. We'll be back in just one moment with more of Tuesday's top stories. Some that we were thinking were just a bit funny, some that are quite important. We'll see you in a few minutes.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
Make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
Right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for...
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
And welcome back to the final act of Headliners for tonight, at any rate. This is Simon Evans speaking. I've got Leo Kearse and Diane Spencer to my left. And it turns out that Viktor Orban, who I think genuinely is to my right, might not be the trans ally we all thought he was. This is from the Times, Diane.
Yeah, so the Hungarian Prime Minister is deciding to hold a referendum on the same day as the national elections. And he wants to confirm legislation to outlaw the promotion of, the promotion of gender non-conformity, which, let's be honest, could be interpreted as literally a woman wearing trousers.
Right.
Gender reassignment, yes, I'm wearing trousers, and homosexuality, which is probably
we
half
know what homosexuality
of the people.
is,
Well, no, I was
grown-ups,
going to say the people, half the people who live in Hungary.
Right.
Probably.
Half of them.
Well, there are kind of statistics that suggest that
half the people that live in Hungary?
I haven't done it myself. I mean, I thought that was just how many sort of people naturally occurred who
Are you thinking of
were
women?
gay.
Is that?
No, I think it's about 4 to 7%.
Oh, is it 4 to 7%?
I think
okay.
even that's quite possibly high, but I don't know, it fluctuates a little bit.
I'm just talking about my household.
So anyway, it's a sort of Section 28 kind of legislation, right? It's against the promotion of this kind of stuff in schools and that sort of thing. That's what he's...
Yeah, but he's just creating that evil other, and he's labelling...
And just to be clear, he wants to have a referendum, and it's on the same day as the national election.
Yeah,
so
which
there's
has
a sort
never
of
been
sense
done
of
before.
conflating the two as you have two different slips, or...
Well, I'm assuming there's going to be two different slips.
That's quite
but
interesting, isn't it? That's quite a psychological... That feels like that's quite a kind of bold move, just like strategically, regardless of how...
But I mean, I guess he's playing the West, because the West is seen, in Russia and in Eastern Europe, the West is seen as this, depraved, decadent, rainbow-coloured, where, males beat women in sporting events. Which does occasionally happen, obviously. Part of me, obviously, Western liberal democracy is all for gay rights and all the rest of it, which is fantastic. We could maybe just dial down the rainbow stuff, a little bit until Putin goes away.
And I have seen there is at least one woman who's opposing this she's called something called the Momentum Party, but it's not the same as
the Liberal
Corbyn's
Momentum movement.
Yeah. And she says she's actually an MEP, but she is like kind of fighting against this, but I guess on behalf of the EU. So he's kind of against the EU rather than against his own internal opposition within Hungary. Is that right?
He is playing to his sort of base crowd, and he's always painted Brussels as they want to come and change the gender of your children. And they've even made this horrendous advert where a little girl says, "Oh, Mummy, we were supposed to do maths, but we didn't do maths today. We learnt about gender reassignment, and now I want to be a boy." And
so it's making a good point.
Okay. I've got a sneaky bit of sympathy for Orban's campaign here. A new documentary claims Edward VIII told the Nazis to keep bombing England until he was on the crown, and also passed information to Germany during World War II. This is from the Mail, Diane.
Yes, so there's a historian, Dr. Lowney, and he's written this book called The Traitor King. And it's all about his research, which he's been doing in the Royal Archives, which for decades have been unavailable. But recent policy changes mean that researchers now have greater access.
Policy changes, or just the general, enough years have passed?
Well, it says here, recent policy change.
Okay.
So I'm going with policy change.
Okay. Time elapses generally, doesn't it? These things get released after a certain amount of time.
I repeat, policy change.
Okay.
I will start explaining homosexuality soon. So essentially, Edward VIII, after abdicating and decided he'd rather go and marry a divorced American socialite, suddenly decides, he's made a whoopsie. And we've all got eyes on Harry when we read this story, because we're going, well, what is he going to come up with? And Edward VIII then encouraged the Nazis to bomb Britain into submission. So let me just reiterate that. A former royal who would have been our king because I personally am a Republican, a former royal who would have been our king, was giving information to the Nazis because he wanted them to bomb Britain so he could step back in as king.
I think actually he wasn't a former. He was still the Duke of Windsor.
Right.
I think.
And was he German or was his father German? Is there some sort of link to the
Albert was German, but
that's his dad.
Yeah,
right.
Saxe-Coburgs. They changed their name to Windsor at that point.
Right.
But
But
they're
is
all
a
German,
clue.
aren't they? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there is a clue that actually it was discovered, and the then Prime Minister Winston Churchill removed the Duke from Europe, making him the governor of the Bahamas. We can see why the Caribbean hates us. We give them our Nazi kings.
It was funny. He remained on quite good terms with the interviewers and social life, generally speaking, after the war as well. I mean, I think it was fairly widely known and understood. Again, an episode of The Crown made it fairly clear. But I think it was fairly widely understood that had been his kind of sympathy. Although there was a lot of suspicion. These things come out every so often, pictures of the Queen giving Nazi salutes at the age of 3 or something at some birthday
Harry wearing
party,
a Nazi uniform with a swastika. Oh, Harry.
No, I mean even before or during the time as well, there was suspicions that there were some sympathies. But one thing I did see in the story that I think he may be overplaying a little bit is there was a suggestion that that Edward had conducted his own research into what amounted to the weak points in France's defences, and that these were indeed the weak points which were attacked by Germany's advances in 1939. Is that right? Have I got
Yes,
that right?
because he passed his information on to his close friend, a Nazi informant, Charles Bedaux.
I wonder if the Germans conducted a little bit of backup research on their own account, though, before committing to that. Anyway, Hunter Biden is still under investigation for failure to pay taxes, and his emails are under scrutiny once again. Well, I don't think that's the main story, is it? The important thing is that the New York Times have admitted that a story about his laptop, which was denounced as Russian propaganda, Twitter banned the New York Post, who were trying to tell you this story, not you, but all of us, in the run-up to the last election, and any mention of this story would get you an immediate suspension from Twitter. It turns out to have all been true.
Correct.
Sorry, I had the teleprompter, which I felt was steering me away from the truth. So I thought I'd let you know.
No, that's absolutely right. So I mean, at the time, the New York Post did this revelatory story that so Hunter Biden had left his laptop. He's the son of Joe Biden, obviously. Left his laptop in a repair shop. Forgot to go and pick it up. And like Gary Glitter, if you've got dodgy stuff in your laptop, be very careful.
It is insane, these people.
Where
I don't even like taking my laptop.
I want to know which shop this is. I think everybody in the city of Delaware should be warned which repair shop this is. Because they clearly go through all your stuff.
You should be aware.
Yeah.
In Delaware. But and at the time, I mean, when people talk about stealing the election, there wasn't, mass voter fraud or anything like that. Yeah. But the political establishment and the tech establishment colluded to suppress this story, which is a completely valid and true story and would have swung people's minds in the election.
There was actually a story in Time magazine, I think it was about 6 months ago, about that, but I saw it mentioned again recently. Did you ever see that? In which they said a group of people came together quite deliberately to control the flow of information.
Unaccountable, unelected tech oligarchs who control the narrative in the media and decide what you see. And you'll even get banned from the platform if you share actual facts. Yeah. So, we really need to have tech platforms, social media platforms need to have open and clear rules, and they need to stop acting as arbiters of the truth.
I would agree with that. I'm not even going to let Diane argue. An article from the Metro states...
I was not going to argue.
An article from the Metro states a teacher from London was fired after he expressed homophobic and anti-Semitic views, Diane.
Yes.
And some even more batshit ones than that. So, pardon my French, but
yes, this lunatic. I'm going to go with that word. So Robert Headley has just sort of said that gay people have the DNA of Satan.
He's also a flat earther as well, right?
Oh, yes.
Satan or this guy?
No, this guy. This guy, he's
Satan's a flat earther. Where's he going to live?
Likely.
Well, you've got to be, if you're Satan, you've got to be a flat earther because hell's underneath.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
Oh, is hell
His stuff is still up on YouTube, though. It's quite weird. But he only got sacked, I think, because he filmed his weird videos in the classroom or something. And you could see a picture of some other teachers.
And he had the logo on his jumper.
He actually wore the school uniform whilst he was chatting about the flat Earth. And he has a YouTube channel with a following of nearly 300,000 people.
That is definitely... I saw that as well in our notes. But actually, I went to his YouTube channel. It's got 3.33K.
Oh, well, Metro, so what on earth are you doing? This is, well, then that is wrong. They should... OK.
More fake news.
Ah, well, an article
like
from The Sun claims rookie officers are too woke, Leo.
Oh,
this
God.
We already know.
This is exactly...
this is
This is exactly the sort of story I want coming in right now. Putin's coming storming over the horizon with his... I mean, they've got 16-year-old recruits in Russia's army who, actually, to be fair, don't seem to be doing any better than these people. But basically, there's a police force... it's got
West Midlands Police.
West Midlands Police, who've they've come up for other breaches and
notorieties.
They're notoriously badly run. But parents have been complaining. It's
like parents of police officers.
Helicopter parents. Well, you get them with the police. So these rookie recruits are coming. One mother arrived with her son on his first shift at West Midlands Police because he was nervous. Apparently, several new officers are getting car sick when they go in the traffic cars.
They should drive with my husband.
And asking the driver to stop. And a mum in Wolverhampton called in to say, the job you sent my daughter to really upset her. So, maybe they should get jobs at Pets at Home or something instead of becoming police officers.
It's always that's supposed to be the sign you're growing old, isn't it? That the police officers start looking too young. But when they're your own kids, I suppose, it's a different calculation.
But how bad is police camera action going to be? Because I love those programmes where they go, oh, this is DCI Brad. He's a Pisces and he loves custard. And then they'll show a police chase and the dogs who go, yeah, we nicked him, it was good. But now it's going to be... This is DCI Wisley.
I get car sick. I can't chase after them because my mum said I'm not allowed to run outside. Ugh.
According to a study reported in The Guardian, orangutans can speak in slang, which that presents a whole new range of opportunities for the next Jungle Book remake.
They're going to have them spitting some tunes on a corner. So this is absolutely beautiful and amazing. So orangutans, they have this thing called a kiss squeak, which is kind of how they sort of make noise.
Is it sucking their teeth?
I don't know. It's sort of a
slightly salacious noise that certain gentlemen make, isn't it?
Chirpsing.
Is it? Can you do it? I can't really...
That's quite a good one. But what they do is they sort of alternate the pitch, they alternate how it sounds. And if the other orangutans kind of go, that's pretty cool, then they'll sort of mimic it. And it becomes a bit of slang that they sort of all pop round to each other.
Oh, it's mimetic. OK, that's nice. I like
but it can also indicate something that's happened. Which is incredible. So say an orangutan falls off a log, everybody thinks it's hysterical.
They all laugh.
And then one of the orangutans goes, then everybody else goes, next time it happens.
Next time it happens, they'll all do that immediately.
Yeah, and what they've discovered, in the same way that slang moves around different communities of humans, in that in low-density areas, the slang sort of moves at a slower pace. So, for example, in Trowbridge, they're still doing the whole, they've still got that going on. Whereas, in Clapham Junction, for example, they all use this word bougie.
Which is
any idea? Right, because I'm pretty sure we're all older than Channel 4.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's funny when new words come out and then people are using them, and then people in their 40s are trying to use them to try and look cool.
My
standard.
wife does that. Absolutely.
Standard.
Oh,
what's that?
Standard. Everyone was saying it a few years back. Standard.
I can barely understand hot mess, and I think I was one, but I wasn't.
I know what basic means. I quite like basic. Is that like standard?
And there's one cope. Cope.
Yeah, no, cope is. But you can use cope online. Well, cope is basically you're making an excuse to cover your humiliation.
Oh, yeah, but isn't that what cope means anyway?
It's like sour grapes.
You're telling someone to just deal with it.
Can somebody please tweet me and tell me what bougie means?
Hitting children, possibly in response to their annoying slang. Hitting children, a parent's right or an outdated form of punishment. This is from the Times, Leo.
Yeah, so England is now the only nation in the whole of the United Kingdom that...
I was going to say, surely Hungary.
yeah. Well... England, Scotland, Wales, I guess Northern Ireland as well have banned smacking. You're not allowed to smack your children. Wales has been the most recent one to ban it. So if you want to hit your child in the face,
no more
you're gonna
slapping holidays.
You're going to have to come to England. But I mean, it makes sense because English children are the most annoying.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna happen, if it's gonna pass in England. But
there are rules against actually physically assaulting your child, aren't there? I suppose it just depends about on what level it's imposed. Is that right?
I think at a certain level it's seen as just reprimanding the child for something they've done wrong. But obviously don't go.
How do you feel about this, Diane? I sense you're going to be an anti-smacker, aren't you?
Well, no, I'm not.
Do you have children?
I have 2 stepkids, and
are you allowed to hit them? What's the rules on that? That's probably a legal grey area.
I have never.
To be fair, Wales is a grey area as well.
Well, I mean, I would say that with this, it's just quite an interesting thought because I got slapped a bit when I was growing up. If I was out of order, I got a slap, and so you're going to get one. And I could just imagine that. If my dad or my family and we were in this time now, then and we were going on holiday to Wales, my parents would be waiting until they got to the border. Where they were right a second we get back into England.
You just wait till we get to Bristol. David Beckham has made an unusual contribution to the Ukrainian struggle. This set my teeth on edge, but I dare say it's a fashionable sort of thing to do. Go on.
Well, no, Simon. Now, come on. Now, all throughout this, so let me summarise. So, David Beckham has had control of his Instagram account to a Ukrainian doctor.
Okay.
And it would be super useful if Russia had not banned Instagram, which they have done in an effort to curb sort of the actual information getting out. But he has given it to a Ukrainian doctor who's working in Kharkiv.
Yeah.
And he's got 71.6 million Instagram followers.
Yes.
And so they're learning all about...
so this chap can just send pictures of hospitals.
This
and bomb
lady
sites
doctor called Arena is sending clips.
They've got lady doctors now, Simon.
Did I say man doctor?
Yes. Now,
I don't believe I did I?
You have been presupposing what I've been saying for most of this show, so I would love to hear, why does this set your teeth on edge?
Oh, I just think it's a bit influencery, isn't it? But I guess it's probably helpful.
What do you mean?
Well, it's just kind of like, I'll use my influencer status. I just find it...
Yeah, but it's using it for, normally footballers use their influencer status to sell hair transplants or weight loss coffee.
That's true.
So it's good to be, something a bit more altruistic.
Yeah,
fair enough. If it's not going to be TikTok videos, that's all I want to make sure. And I don't want to see TikTok videos of dancing nurses coming out of the Ukraine.
I don't think David Beckham's Instagram followers necessarily read the Times, so it's good that it's getting the message out there.
That's all we have time for, folks. I've been your host, defeated on the last story tonight. Simon Evans, thanks very much to our guests, Leo and Diane. We'll be back with you tomorrow evening. Until then, good night.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for...
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and every weekday we bring you The Briefing live from 9:30 a.m. The stories, analysis and live debate that you need to hear.
Quite right, Tom, of course.
Was this something that had been considered at all?
Difficult to